Veronica's on the Herb is the sixth episode of the second season of Veronica's Closet. And we do have a story with Veronica, but most of this actually focuses on Alec. But Veronica and Olive get into an interesting situation. The title kind of gives away some of what it's about, and they have to, well, decide to start covering up their body. It starts with their hands and kind of escalates. And I don't want to say too much more about that. It's definitely the subplot, but I found it to be pretty entertaining, very well written, and it's also really nice to see Olive and Veronica interacting. I think they have such a great friendship, and I love Kathy Najimy as well, so it just makes me so happy. That part of the narrative definitely provided some brilliant comic relief, particularly the last time we see them. I won't say what happens, but I found it to be rather entertaining. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. The main narrative actually focuses on Alec, and we get to see a more vulnerable side of Alec. And up until this point, we don't know that much about his past. We do know a little bit about his family and his situation, but not too much about some of the more emotional aspects of his character. And in this one, we meet his ex wife, a woman called Kim. Kim is played by Tia Carrere. I apologise if I've mispronounced that. And it was not exactly a great separation. I also really like the fact that he's divorced. That sounds horrible, but because Veronica is as well. And there is a moment in this episode where he explains to Veronica it's his ex wife, and there's this moment of recognition where they both realize they've both been through this. They can connect because they've both been through not a very pleasant divorce. Not that I imagine most divorces are pleasant. And I thought that was quite a nice way to bring those characters together. But actually, the episode focuses more on Alec and Perry, because Perry starts to date Kim, which immediately I thought was not a good idea. I feel like dating your boss's ex-wife is just always going to be a problematic thing, and I don't know exactly why Perry ever thought that would be a good idea. Even if Alec had said to him, go for it, you'll love her, she's amazing, have a great time, I think you're destined to be together. Even if he said that, that's a terrible decision to make. So I don't. Perry as a character I don't dislike. I've never disliked Perry, but I think he made a really stupid decision. But it did give us some really heartfelt scenes between Alec and Perry. So it drove the narrative and it worked really well. But in terms of me liking Perry a little bit less, it definitely added some fuel for that. Perry's a pretty selfish character, but usually his selfishness doesn't affect other people. At least, the main characters. Of course, it affects some people, but in terms of the main characters, not so much. But here, definitely he made a bad decision. But the way it developed within the narrative and ultimately where things went, I think the narrative worked really well. So I really enjoyed it. As much as I love Kirstie Alley, I'm in love with Kirstie Alley and want her to be on screen all the time. It was nice to shift focus a little bit to Alec and his problems and get to know a bit more about him and his vulnerabilities. Definitely helps to shape the character and perspectives. Really enjoyed it. I always. And Veronica's on the Herb was a pretty decent episode.